What's up, y'all? Meowth here. A new expansion is about to come out, so it's one of my favorite times of the year when it comes to theory crafting. It's one of my favorite things to do in card games in general. Absolutely love it. But what I have for you guys today, I have 40 decks utilizing the brand new cards, so that regardless of what you open from your free packs or your free legendaries, you don't have an excuse. You have to play something, alright? You've got all of these options now. You gotta play something that's not Pirate, Warrior, or Hunter. At least for like a day, okay? Give us a day where we can, play with the new cards before we go back to the good stuff, okay? But before we hop into the decks, I do want to remind you guys that I'll be streaming all of these decks over on Twitch, refining them live, posting the refined list in Discord, and eventually the highlights of those decks will be making their way over here to YouTube. So if you guys want to check out any of the Twitch streams, you can find me at twitch.tv/getmeout. You can join my Discord where you'll find out the list as I refine them and put them in the appropriate channels. And of course, if you drop a subscription here, you'll get notifications on when those videos go live. Alright, enough of me talking. Let's go ahead and hop into some of these lists. Alright, so we're going to go in class order here. So we're going to start off with Demon Hunter. And the first one that I'm going to show you is maybe the most boring of the Demon Hunter decks. But Odd Demon Hunter, right? This is the deck that we know is like the one current valid archetype for the class. And so what we've done here is we've done a little bit of an upgrade. Dread Prison Glaive is the new weapon for the class. That looks pretty good, right? It allows you to clear the board while still going face, potentially. And then we do have a cute little package here running Iron Deep Trog. So utilizing Iron Deep Trog with some of the traditional cards you run in this deck, like Guardian Og Merchant and Beaming Sidekick, combined with stuff like Mana Burn, makes the Trog really, really hard to clear, and potentially allowing you to snowball enough damage against classes like Pirate Warrior, when they have the quest on one, potentially stopping Shivers, but specifically against stuff like Odd Quest Hunter, potentially being able to snowball and help you in that matchup. So yeah, maybe the most boring of the Demon Hunter decks that we're going to talk about today, but I do think one of the better ones for sure. Alright, next up we have another take on Odd Demon Hunter, but this one's a little bit more fun. Basically, we're trying to abuse the new card Urzul Giant. This is the 13 mana 8/8 that gets cheaper for each friendly minion that's died. And so utilizing some 1-drops like Firefly, which we haven't seen in forever, Mermies, Mekaroos, and then specifically utilizing like cards like Command the Illidari, along with the draw engine of Need for Greed and Peasant, and potentially using these 8/8s that come out on like turn 5, turn 6 in combination with Loatheb. Hey, stop me if you've heard that combination of cards before, 8/8s and Loatheb, and using that as a way to kind of just seal out the game. It's a different take, okay? When you're running stuff like Fireflies and Mekaroos and Mermies, I don't know how good the deck can be, but you do have that Demon Hunter hero power, and if you can get these Giants down with this kind of build on turn 5 or turn 6, I think this deck might actually have a very real chance of being a very good deck. Alright, now let's shift focus a little bit here. We're going to stay with the Demon Hunter theme, but we're going to combine the Demon Hunter theme with a Death Rattle theme. So the Death Rattle Demon Hunter, you have very sticky Death Rattles that summon more minions from your hand, allowing you to discount that giant very, very quickly, potentially, because you have stuff like Snip Snap, you have Renowned Performer, you have the Devouring Ectoplasm, you have stuff like Dreadbore and Beastmaster summoning more minions. Then you have that combined with just some of the good token, just the best token Demon Hunter cards like Battle-Worn Vanguard, Coordinated Strike, and Command the Illidari. And then we get to utilize those giants, right? Those giants, those big payoffs for that 0-mana 8/8. We combine that with stuff like Curtis, right? Curtis with Battle-Worn Vanguard is just a way to have some pretty obscene amount of late game burst damage if, the sticky minions plus 8/8s just don't happen to get you there over the end. But yeah, I think this probably is the best chance Demon Hunter has at getting another meta deck that is not odd. I do really, really like, it's got a lot of powerful cards here, which you need, right? You can't just have a good hero power and like the strong payoffs if you're supporting like 5 or 10 really bad cards. I think you have some pretty solid cards in here, and so I'm excited to see what this deck can do. Alright, so we transition away from that Death Rattle token Demon Hunter to just a more pure token Demon Hunter build, kind of just geared towards getting value out of your Curtis and getting value out of your Urzul Giants. So basically what we're using here is we're using that Pirate early game package that we know and love, combined with stuff like Battle-Worn Vanguard, Haunted Creeper, Knife Juggler, Umberwing, which is like the baby Demon Hunter muster for battle, And then some of our big payoffs. So we have the Urzel Giants, obviously. We have Corridor Creepers. Traveling Merchants is a way to maybe just get like a 3-mana big giant. And then we also have stuff like Feast of Souls to serve as our draw engine for this deck. Of course, we're also running 2 copies of the Felfire Deadeye as just a way for that late game burst with Curtis. So yeah, I would actually be very surprised if this deck actually took off because of stuff like Ship's Cannon is a very good card against this deck. Cards like Defile are pretty damn good against this deck. But I could see this deck being very, very good if Odd Quest Hunter remains super popular in meta, because they do tend to struggle with these super go-wide strategies. And, I mean, unlike Odd Paladin, we actually have a pretty absurd draw engine with that Feast of Souls, so I'm pretty excited to see what we can do with this deck. And last but not least, we're going to transition into the big Demon Hunter builds. And so the way that I have kind of focused on this is you still need that solid early game, right, to transition you to those big late game demons. And we get to actually still run minions, okay? We still get to do that when we're playing big Demon Hunter, which is strange when it comes to a big Demon Hunter deck. I decided to, instead of going for the Armor Vendor, Galactic Crawler, Dirty Rat style of approach, of just trying to play control big Demon Hunter, the way that I approached this deck was take what's good about Demon Hunter. Death Rattle Demon Hunter actually has a really, really strong core of cards. And so we take that and we use that as our early game to transition us into these renowned performers, the Sigil of Reckoning, the Fell Summoner that carry a Fell Soul. Okay, so we use that Death Rattle package early game. Mid game, we cheat out these big demons and use the big demons like Illidari Inquisitor or Taintar Tormentor to kind of just finish the game, as opposed to being our only primary game plan. Because if you just use them as the primary game plan, you don't really get to do anything if they answer that one big minion, right? Which a lot of decks can nowadays. And so yeah, this is my prediction for how big Demon Hunter is actually going to be successful. I don't know if it will be, but this, I think, is the best approach to it. All right, as we transition into Druid, let's start with the easy one. Let's talk about Celestial Alignment Druid. This is the easiest deck to build because all we have done is we had taken out like the one tech card or like the second copy of Mana Saber that a lot of these decks are running, and we are just adding Wildheart Guff. I have chosen Mali for my win con. You can play this with Togwaggle, you can play this with Linecracker, whatever win con you want to play in your Celestial Alignment deck. You probably should be running Guff. I have come around on this card. I actually think it's pretty damn solid in a lot of these Celestial Alignment combo Druid decks. It kind of does everything you want, and so you should probably be running it. And then as we move into Aggro Druids, I've got a couple of builds of Aggro Druids. So starting off with the just a normal non-beast Aggro Druid. Basically, the main addition here is that Claw Fury Adept. This is the mini Savage Roar on a stick. You might notice that I am running Drekthar. I think Drekthar is pretty damn busted in an Aggro Druid build. But yeah, those are kind of the main additions here. I think Aggro Druid's still going to struggle with what it's always kind of struggled with, right? It's going to struggle against that Odd Hunter hero power. It's going to struggle against Ship's Cannon. It's going to struggle against Defile. But it'll beat up on a lot of those slower decks that are kind of unsuspecting. But yeah, big fan of Claw Fury Adept though, so I'm excited to see if it can actually make this deck a lot more competitive. Yeah, and then I did want to try out a Beast version of the Aggro Druid build, not only centering around Claw Fury Adept, which is the Beast itself, but the new like Beast from Below, Frostsaber Matriarch, the one that can become a 0-mana 4/5 taunt. So we're utilizing obviously a lot more Beasts in our deck, compared to just like the pure pirate build. So we're running stuff like Acorn Bears that's going to add Beast to your hands. We're going to run Snow Flipper Penguins. We're going to run Dire Moles. We're going to run Vibrant Squirrels. That's going to shuffle Beast into your deck. So yeah, I think that Frostsaber Matriarch has insane potential. I think we need just a little bit higher quality Beast to run, because I think cards like Acorn Bear and Vibrant Squirrel are not great. But if we do end up getting a couple of just strong 1-drop, maybe 2-drop Beast, I think this deck actually has a pretty absurd amount of potential, just because Matriarch is an absolutely insane card. we have some pretty insane tools in Aggro Druid. We're just missing some of those early game insane Beast, and then this deck is going to be really legit. But I'm excited to see the potential of Frostsaber Matriarch. And then last but not least for Druid, I did want to talk a little bit about Token Druid. This is one of my babies. The new tool here is the Capture Cold Tooth Mine, the card that's either going to let you draw the lowest cost card in your deck or the highest cost card in your deck. So with this deck configuration, it's either always going to draw you Lightning Bloom on turn 2 so that you can do a pretty insane turn 3 or turn 4, or it's going to always draw you your Arbor or your Glowfly Swarm so that you always have that pretty insane turn 5. The big thing here is we are cutting stuff like Spreading Plague, so it does make our matchups against stuff like Pirate Warrior a lot worse. But those matchups were never great to begin with, even when we were running Spreading Plague. And so I do like kind of just transitioning away from a bad matchup and just make our matchup into those good decks a lot better. Okay, then we transition into Hunter. Thank God Odd Hunter didn't get any new cards. So let's talk about Even Hunter. So basically here I'm looking at that new secret Ice Trap. I think this card is very, 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 very good. And then we're going to combine it with Spring the Trap. So this is a 4-mana deal 3 to a minion, and then if you honorably kill, you get 2 secrets. If you don't honorably kill, you just get 1, just as like a flanking strike, but pulling the secrets in good tempo. I do think that you want to be consistently honorably killing with this card, otherwise it's not going to be good enough. And if you're not honorably killing, enough with Spring the Trap, I don't think it's necessarily good enough. And so then maybe we cut Spring the Trap for stuff like Imprisoned Felmaws or maybe just Knife Vendors. I do want to also try out Beastmaster Tavish in this deck. I think the improved secrets are actually pretty damn good. I just don't know how good the Animal Companion hero power is going to be compared to the 1-mana hero power that you have in combination with stuff like Dragon's Bane. But maybe we'll find out. We'll have to find out. And the only way to do that is by playing it. So then I do want to transition away from just the even Secret Hunter build and transition just to like a pure Secret Hunter build. So I've been playing a version of this deck with Drekthar that was running 2 Cloaked Huntresses and 2 Injured Blade Masters, with the addition of stuff like Dunbaldar Bunker and the new secrets and Ice Trap. I did want to try out a combination of Cloaked Huntress and Crossroads Gossiper, just because then you play the Drekthar. Even if you hit Gossiper and Huntress, then you get to cheat out a bunch of secrets, make it really, really hard to clear your board. The Dunbaldar Bunker should be a very strong draw engine in this deck. As you can see, we'll also be running Spring the Traps and the new Beaststalker Tavish as well, for very similar reasons that we were talking about in the Even Hunter build, but we get even better synergy here because we get to combine it with stuff like Spellstone and Petting Zoo. But yeah, pretty excited about this deck. I actually think this is a deck that has a load of potential, as long as they don't nerf Drekthar because of standard. But yeah, I really do like the Secret Hunter build. This looks pretty clean. Obviously, you can mess around with the composition of secrets depending on what you're playing against and what you're expecting to see in the meta. But yeah, this is just kind of my starting go-to point that I'll be editing from once I actually start playing. And then take everything that I've been saying about these Even Hunters and these Secret Hunters and apply that same logic to Reno Hunter, just utilizing the good cards, right? Stuff like Dunbaldar Bunker as a draw engine, stuff like Ice Trap's just a pretty good card. I think Spring the Trap has a load of potential in thinning the deck. And then obviously Beaststalker Tavish, a lot better card than Rexxar in a tempo-oriented style deck like this. But yeah, this is my take on Reno Hunter. I think you have to be playing Reno Hunter as a tempo-oriented build, which is why I really, really struggled to find a big beast version of this deck. Obviously, there's probably one out there, but I do think that the secret-oriented build would be the build that I would tend to favor as being better. And then the last Hunter deck I have for you guys here is Beast Hunter. So this is a deck that I've been a fan of ever since they unnerfed Starving Buzzard. Corvette's been talking up a lot the Stormpike Battle Ram, so I do want to try it out here. So the idea is you don't really tend to have turn 4 plays, and so Battle Ram serves as that turn 4 play. That also gets to corrupt your Don't Feed the Animals pretty nicely. So you go like a pretty nice curve of Master's Call into Stormpike Battle Ram, and then turn 5 you can Don't Feed the Animals plus vomit your hand, because Battle Ram will allow you to either discount stuff like Tundra Rhino, or even let you bank mana for that Starving Buzzard pop-off turn, so that you get to even, play even more beasts and draw even more cards. But yeah, Beast Hunter, always a fan of this, and looking forward to play it again in the new expansion. Okay, so we move into Mage here. Mage, the primary support that they got was big spell support. So one of the decks that I wanted to try out was a big spell Reno Mage. We actually cut the Luna's Pocket Galaxy from this deck for a very specific reason, and I don't know if that reason is correct or not, but basically we want to run Mass Polymorph as our only arcane spell, so that when we play Magister Dawngrasp, we are guaranteed a board wipe with the Mass Polymorph off of it, in addition to something like clearing the board with Fire Sale or Flame Ward, and then setting up an Ice Block. Again, I don't know if this is correct, but utilizing cards like Grey Sage Parrot or Tartolian Pilgrim to cheat out these Rune of the Archmages and puzzle boxes, and playing those multiple times, as well as just pure good old Reno Mage value stuff with Branzolo Kazakis or Zeph or Lothebs to lock out games is kind of what I'm looking for with this deck. I don't think that you need a ton of value nowadays, so that's why there's no Potion of Illusion, just not really a value meta right now. And so you're just kind of looking to tempo out people and then potentially finish them with stuff like Rune of the Archmage, or just, like I mentioned, Zeph, Kazakis, or Lotheb blockouts with Bran and Zola. If that's less of your speed and you want to just go all in on the big spell stuff, I do have a pure big spell mage for you guys as well. Again, using stuff like Sandwich, Belinda to cheat out the big spells. We don't really have enough dragons that we can run to support stuff like Dragoncaster, unfortunately, so we are running stuff like Clumsy Courier. But basically, the idea behind this deck, play as many Rune of the Archmages, play as many puzzle boxes of Yogg-Saron's as you possibly can, and eventually they will win you the game. I don't know how, but one day they will win you that game. And then with the last mage deck here, I did want to take another stab at Secret Mage. Secret Mage just kind of completely dropped off the face of the earth because it really struggles into both Odd Hunter and Pirate Warrior. I do have hopes that Shivering Sorceress will actually be pretty good in this deck, discounting stuff like your secrets or your ancient mysteries, allowing you some faster tempo swings than even old Secret Mage was used to, in maybe combination with stuff like Arcane Flak Mage. In this meta, maybe you want a double Flame Ward to deal with all the pirates. Maybe you go down to like one Rigged Fair game as a result. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of the build that I would have for Secret Mage. It's basically the Secret Mage you guys know and love. Just testing out this new 1-drop to see if it actually helps in those really bad matchups. Alright, I have 3 Paladin decks for you guys. So the first one is my baby. I do love some Libram Paladin. And I swear if any of you guys in the comments say Standard Deck XD, I'm going to punch you. Alright, I don't know how I'm going to punch you, but I will reach through my screen and punch you because stop. But yeah, I mean, this deck has been a ton of fun to play for me. The main thing here is that Stonehearth Vindicator. This is a card that I'm absolutely, so excited to try out. We've actually cut the Hand of a Dolls here to make it consistently drawing you Christology or that Libram of Wisdom, which is a really powerful tool, kind of crucial to your game plan. That Hand of a Doll will make stuff like Linessa a little bit worse, but you're replacing that draw with that Stonehearth Vindicator, and I think that Stonehearth Vindicator is just better draw, especially since you can actually draw it off of stuff like Soulhead's Pride itself. But yeah, we're also trying out Lightforged Cariel as just a kind of way to bridge you to that Libram of Hope kind of end game. I'm not running Itis in here. Maybe those Devout Pupils get a little bit more awkward, and so we want to run one, Itis Darkbane as a way to finish once Cariel gets there. I do want to see how much finishing power that hero power from Cariel actually has. Just adding +4/+4 to stuff like Knight of Anointments in the late game or Soulhead's Pride in the late game seem like they might be super relevant, and so I'm going to be trying it out. But yeah, this is definitely one of the first decks that I'm going to be playing and kind of refining as we go, once I actually test and see how stuff like Lightforged Cariel actually are. Yeah, and then probably the better version of the deck to be running Stonehearth Vindicator in. We're running Hand Buff Paladin here, so we actually have a couple of new cards. We got the Vindicator. We also have Sidon the Scarlet. So this is that 3-mana 2/2 that whenever this minion gains attack or health, double that amount wherever this is, including your hand, right? And so just that 1/1 buff from an Outfitter or a Smuggler's Run makes this a 3-mana 4/4 with Rush, which is already pretty good, with the potential to get pretty insane if you combine it with multiple buffs or like a Glowstone Technician. So I'm pretty excited about this. There's also some spice here with Iron Deep Trog, hoping that the buffs make it a lot harder to kill in one spell or with just the minions, which means that against stuff like Odd Hunter, if you can get a buff Trog down that they can't really deal with just their hero power, that's how you actually win games. The Quest Hunter matchup has been one of the hardest matchups for Libram Paladin / Hand Buff Paladin, and I'm hoping that Iron Deep Trog, when buffed up, might actually help swing that matchup to more even, if not just slightly unfavored, which would be very big for Hand Buff Paladin. So excited to try out a lot of the new cards here. And just a little note here, the Vindicator we're using specifically for stuff like Righteous Defense and Smuggler's Run, in addition to the Christology. Just really powerful cards. tutoring your hand buff, tutoring your draw, tutoring removal seems pretty strong. So super excited for Vindicator in this deck as well. And then the last Paladin deck that I had to try out, we had to try out this big Paladin with all of the new tools that they're getting. So in the early game, we're using a Sword of the Fallen / Secret package to kind of help bridge you until turn 5. We have that Vitality Surge as a way to heal up and actually draw some of those big minions for combinations with Cavalry Horn. So we have the 6 ways to cheat out minions. We got Cavalry Horn, Dual Commencement. We are using Vandar as sort of like our Barnes, right? One of the really bad hits off of Dual or Commencement, but you're basically full mulling for Vandar. And so, just like you're kind of full mulling for Barnes, and so when you hit the Barnes, your deck was insane if you were playing Big Priest. If you hit the Vandar, this deck actually just becomes insane if you're playing Big Paladin. If you guys don't want to play the Vandar, or you guys haven't completed the quest yet to achieve and receive your Vandar, you can try out like a second wave of Apathy in its place in the meantime. But yeah, excited to try out this deck. I think Brasswings and Templar Captains are pretty damn good, so excited to see if they actually make Big Paladin a playable deck. Alright, as we move into Priest, the first deck that I do want to talk about here is Reno Priest. So the big thing that Reno Priest is getting is Gift of the Naru. I've talked about this multiple times on multiple card reviews. I think the card is just absolutely busted. I think it's a very, very good card, especially in combination with like Minion Zyrella, which we were running in this deck, in combination with stuff like Desperate Prayer and Renews as well. We also are running, I do want to try out like the new Spirit Guide here. It is a little bit slow, right? It's a 5-mana 5/5 taunt, but it also draws you a Shadow Spell, which is almost always going to be removal, and it draws you a Holy Spell, which is almost always going to be healing. So you can kind of guarantee what you're going to hit, which I really, really like. Plus, it draws you 2 cards, thins your deck, makes it more likely for you to find Raza, Ando, and Polkel, right? Draw the good cards in your deck. So, excited to see if this new build of Reno Priest actually, help shift the needle in some of the unfavorable matchups that it's had in the current meta. And then I did want to try out, I told you guys I was going to do it. Please no flame in the comments. I did want to try out a medium priest build, so here we are. The minions that we're running. So we're obviously running Vargoth, Blood of Cahoon, Scrapyard Colossus, because those are just really, really good cards. But I'm also running stuff like Convincing Infiltrator, Light Shower Elemental, and Undying Disciple. The Undying Disciple is the card that I'm kind of like the least confident on. Probably the first minion that I would cut, because I do know that I have a lot of them in here. But yeah, other than that, it's just normal Big Priest. But the reason that we're trending towards the medium priest build is to take advantage of Zyrella the Devout. I don't think Zyrella the Devout in normal priest, like normal big priest, is worth it at all. Just, it's not worth the slot. And so, if we're abusing it though, of like when we play an 8 mana, you clear the entire enemy's board with Convincing Infiltrators / Undying Disciples, you summon a couple of 7/7s, and then you heal back up to full. Now Zyrella looks like she's actually super worth it, and definitely something that, this is like one way to build Zyrella. And so let's go ahead and talk about the other way that I want to build Zyrella, which is a kind of aggro combo priest version of Zyrella. So basically what we're running here is we're running the old quest package, where we run Awaken the Makers with Dead Ringers and Loot Hoarders and Twilight's Calls. But the other battle cries that we're running are some pretty unique stuff. We're talking about Leper Gnomes, Kobold Sand Troopers, and Shadow Spirits. We're also running stuff like Drekthorn Rally and Twilight's Call with the Shadow Visions, just try to get multiple copies of these Leper Gnomes, Sand Troopers, and Shadow Spirits in your Death Rattle pool. So basically, once you play the Zyrella, your Zyrella becomes 8 mana, deal like 25 to your opponent. Maybe even deal 30. Which I think is kind of gross and really fun. I might have a little bit too many Death Rattles here. Like, maybe I should be cutting down on stuff like the Explosive Sheeps. But this is just kind of like the standard draw engine that this deck has had in the past. But we're just adding the Leper Gnomes, the Sand Troopers, and the Shadow Spirits. And you're just going to have to hold stuff like the Explosive Sheeps in certain matchups. You don't really need them so that they don't dilute your Twilight's Call, your Raised Dead. But this is one of the decks that I'm the most excited to try out and watch fail miserably and spectacularly, but it's going to be fun nonetheless, and I'm going to have fun doing it. Alright, we're moving along here. Let's talk about Rogue. So let's talk about Burgle Rogue. We're gonna play some Maestro of the Masquerade, kind of Miracle Burgle Rogue. So we're running that Foxy Fraud, Swindle, Octobot, Field Contact, Shadow Step, Secret Passage style of deck, because, I mean, I think you should just be running the good rogue cards if you want to try to win games. So we're going to run those. Our burgle cards are stuff like Swashbuckler, Wand Thief. The reason we're running Wand Maker is because in the early game, you're going to be a different class because of Maestro the Masquerade. And so that Wand Maker is going to add cards of a different class to your hand. Maestro also guarantees that we have Underbelly Fence active on 2 every game. We have Vendetta active early every game. It also means that if you are Maestra, then you can Secret Passage on turn 1 and turn 2 and always hit like a 1 or a 0 mana Wildpaw Knoll, which I'm pretty excited about. So yeah, I think the Miracle / Tempo versions of this build are the best ways to actually have a chance at winning. And so this is the way that I built my Burgle Rogue. I am so sorry for those of you guys that like Contraband Stash or Academic Espionage or Tess. While I think they are fun cards, I do not think that they are like the most optimal way to build this deck. And I'm going to try to make Burgle Rogue sort of competitive, so this is kind of the version that I'm going to play first. Alright, and speaking of super fun rogue decks that I'm going to try to make work, basically what we're doing here with this deck, if you guys might remember the Cruel Dynamancer combo, where you just made an entire board full of recurring 5/5s in Warlock, we're trying to do the same thing here in Rogue, utilizing the new legendary Korak Blood Rager. So basically, the hope here, I'm hoping this interaction works like we want to. I really do. It is using stuff like Sketchy Information or Counterfeit Blade for the Korak Death Rattle and triggering it with Umbra. So basically, you use Sketchy Information, that'll summon a 3/5 with Korak. Hopefully that Korak sticks around. If not, you can use the Counterfeit Blade to summon another Korak. And then the idea is you attack into a minion with Korak while you have an Umbra on the board, triggering the Death Rattle where it wasn't honorably killed, and then you summon an entire board full of Koraks that are really, really difficult for the opponent to get rid of. And so to do that, we're running a very select few minions so that we can try to hit stuff off of the raiding party and try to concealment. And we're also running just kind of like good stuff rogue cards, right? We're running the Octobot, we're running Lotheb in combination with Shroud of Concealments and stuff like that. So this is my idea. I don't even know if the interaction works like I want it to. I really hope it does. We will find out tomorrow, and I will let you guys know. Might be one of the first videos that I do because I'm super excited to just pull off some pretty stupid combos with this card. And then a deck that I'm not excited to try, but I know a lot of you guys out there really do like. I do want to talk to you guys a little bit about Mill Rogue. So basically the new card that this got was Shadow Crafter Scab. So this allows you to just play Vanish number 3. I do think that I have rebuilt it a little bit from previous lists that I have seen. We are running stuff like Shroud of Concealments, which I think are very, very good cards in this deck. I have always been a fan of the Watch Post in Mill Rogues. I guess I'm not a fan when they're played against me, which makes me think that they're pretty good in combination with Collate Oracles. So like, yeah, you're drawing them cards, but they cost a lot more. These could always be Swindles, Foxy Fraud to combo with your Swindles, but they don't really combo with a whole lot else in the deck. So that's why I'm running the Watch Post. But yeah, basically you go Shadow Crafter Scabs, and then you play a Cloak, and then you play Valera, and then turn 10 you have a guaranteed kill because you get to play a bunch of Collate Oracles and do the dumb thing. So yeah, I probably will not be playing this deck towards the beginning of the expansion, but I know a lot of you guys do enjoy Mill Rogue, and so I do want to have a theory craft out here for you guys if you do want to play it. And last but not least, I do want to talk to you guys a little bit about this Miracle Rogue that's been running around. I've posted a couple of YouTube videos about it, but I do think that Shadowcrafter Scabs might actually be a pretty legit inclusion into this deck. So basically all I've done is I've gone down 1 Cutlass, because I think 1 Cutlass is all you really need with a raiding party, because you can shuffle away the Cutlass via the tradable ability and draw it again off the raiding party. I'm always a fan of the Double Potion Illusions, maybe just because they're the most fun part of the deck to me. I don't know if Double Potion Illusion is correct, but running the Scabs is a way to reset the board against aggro, and then using that hero power to do some pretty dumb things sounds like a lot of fun. And so yeah, I'll be doing some Shadowcrafter Scab stuff in this deck, and hopefully scamming some opponents with that deck. Alright, and so now we're going to spend a lot of time on 2 classes here. So we're going to start with Shaman. God, if you guys have watched any of my content, you guys know how excited I am for Shaman decks. So the first deck I want to talk to you guys about is specifically a Galakron free Shaman. So Galakron free Shaman, you obviously have the Invocations of Frost plus the Ice Fishing, but I'm trying out stuff like Wind Chill and Frostbite. Frostbite's the card that I'm maybe the least excited for. Like, I think it's probably one of the first cards that comes out. But I do like the redundancy, making sure that I get to hit like Zentimo and Cheaty Snowballed and Diligent Note Taker value. I'm running the Shards because I am running the Cheaty Snowballs. Again, a lot of this is speculative and me just being kind of hype, but I do like the potential of Cheaty Snowballed to serve as a blood loss for your Barren Glacier, or in that mid game serve as, you know, a way to make your Glacial Shards, your Invocations of Frost, your Wind Chills, your Frostbites 1 mana deal 3s or 2 mana deal 6s, potentially. Which also kind of serves as like late game, right? Against maybe like an Evenlock who's unsuspecting on like turn 7 or turn 8. You can go Cheaty Snowballed into like 3 frost spells at the opponent's face plus a Frostbite and just actually kill them, which is pretty cool. We obviously are just running also just good Shaman cards, right? We got the Galakron, the Shadow Walk, we got Zentimo to combo with our cards as well as just like Sleepbreaker. Yeah, I'm excited to try it out. I hope these decks live up to the hype. I do think that Cheaty Snowballed and Frostbites might be the first cards to come out of these decks. If you guys don't like them or looking for replacements to put other cards in, those are the cards that I would look at. And if you cut the Cheaty Snowballed, I'd cut the Glacial Shards, but this is a package of cards that I do want to try out and see how powerful they are. The other build that I want to talk to you guys is just kind of like a pure control Shaman build, utilizing a lot of the Frost spells. So this is aiming, instead of trying to do Galakron stuff, we're trying to do kind of the infinite Shutterwalk stuff with Serenite Chain Gang and Barista. But the rest of the deck looks very similar, right? We're running Armor Benders, the Snow Fury Harpies, or Snowblind Harpies to gain a bunch of armor. We got the Primal Dungeoneers to draw us cards. We got Macaws for the good stuff. We're running Rats and Bolners in our deck now because, I don't know, getting more Wind Chills or drawing more cards seems really, really good. But yeah, very, very similar logic to the Galakron deck. You know, just doing a different sort of win con with this. And with that same logic, we're going to talk about 2 Reno Shaman decks here. So the first one, Reno Galakron Shaman. Very, very similar logic, right? We're running the Wind Chills, we're running the Note Takers to synergize with that, we're running Zentimo to synergize with both the Invocation and the Wind Chills themselves. Obviously, we've got the Sleepbreaker with synergies, Macaws and potentially Primal Dungeoneers and the Harpies, as well as just the good old Shaman cards, right? You got the Invokes, you got the Krunks, you got the Galakron, the Lurker, the Barren Glacier, the Shutterwalk. I do think that Herald of Lochalar in the Reno decks is actually super important. If you guys did notice in the other list that I've been talking about, we were running 2 Primal Dungeoneers over the Heralds, just because even though they both only were going to draw me 1 card, 3 mana compared to 4, I think is actually super relevant, especially since we want to be comboing a lot of these spells with stuff like Zentimo on 4 mana. So I'm a fan of the Herald of the Lochalar in the Reno versions of the deck, but not the non-Reno versions of the deck. And then next up we have the non-Galakron version of Reno Shaman. It looks very, very similar, but instead of the Invocations, we're running stuff like Broomstick, we're running Spirit Echo, which I've actually become a pretty big fan of in these decks. We're also running stuff like Brukan of the Elements. Brukan of the Elements is probably really, really fun. I don't know how good he is, but this is how you find out, right? We also get the additions of stuff like Dirty Rats and Bolners in this deck as well. So yeah, so basically that's like 4 different types of Control Shaman builds. You can play whichever one you think is the best, or whichever one you're kind of the most excited to try out or have the most fun with personally. Obviously, mess around with the decks. I think the decks actually have a ton of potential, and I'm excited to see just how good they can be when refined. I do not think that my decks are 100% refined. I do acknowledge that I have put some for fun cards in my builds, but you know, that's important too, and that's all that matters. I do want to leave Shaman on one last note here. I do want to talk a little bit about Big Shaman, because I do think that Wind Chill is a pretty solid inclusion of this deck, and I know we haven't seen Big Shaman around for a very long time, so I do want to talk a little bit about that. Basically, Overdraft combos really, really well with stuff like Lightning Storm, Perpetual Flame, and Ancestral Knowledge for that Big Shaman early game. And then Wind Chill, obviously, allowing you to stall the Giant while you draw cards. I do think that the Ancestral Spirits are crucial to this deck. But yeah, I also think that if you're queuing into a lot of Pirate Warriors, maybe we cut down on the Colossus of the Moon. I needed a 30th card though and couldn't figure out what to put in there, so we put in the Colossus of the Moon. Might be wrong, maybe you should just be running another removal spell, like a Volcano or a Haggath's Scheme. But yeah, this is where I'm at with Big Shaman. I think Wind Chill is a very good inclusion of that deck. And also Overdraft. We haven't really talked about its potential in these decks, but I think Overdraft is very good as well. Alright, so let's move into Warlock. The first two Warlock decks, maybe even the first three, I'm going to talk through really, really fast because they are getting one new card. So Evenlock, I have been a big fan of the Recombobulator Evenlocks, even if they're not the most optimal build. You can run Cult Neophytes over the Recombobulators if you so choose. But yeah, Locolar I think is a really, really solid inclusion in Evenlock. It's not the most flashy, exciting card, but it's a very good card, and you should probably be running it. And on the bright side, it also synergizes super well with Recombobulator. Nice. And then, yeah, I mean, we move on to Reno Evenlock. Same logic, right? The new card that it's getting is the Locolar, the Ice Lord. Not too much to talk about here. Locolar, a good card, and I believe it is one of the free ones from the Battle Pass as well. So easy to get access to. And I think pretty solid inclusions to both Evenlock and Reno Evenlock. And then we move into Dark Glare. So the Dark Glare, I did want to try out Dreadlich Tamsin in that deck. As just a way to kind of clear the board, reset your hand, refill your hand rather, as well as just create additional threats. I do wonder if the inclusion of Dreadlich Tamsin and the creation of these 3/3s ever warrants bringing back the Tamsin POs in combination with the Battle Masters. I will say I am not a Dark Glare player. We probably want to cut a Netheron and Null for those if we want to include them. But I do think that they get better with the creation of the 3/3s from Dreadlich Tamsin. I think Dreadlich Tamsin just does a lot. It does a lot, and so it has to be good, right? It's just whether it's good enough for Wild and kind of what deck it fits into in Wild. And I do think that Dark Glare is probably the cleanest fit for it right now for Dreadlich Tamsin. All right, now we're getting into the weird / fun decks, I guess, for the new expansion here. So the first one we're going to be just Egglock. It's pure Egglock. We're using Desecrated Graveyard and Sacrificial Summoner. So the idea behind these two cards is we have all of these 2-drops with Nerubian Egg, Scarab Egg, Serpent Egg. And then if you play a Desecrated Graveyard, you get to pop those eggs and make a 4/4 in addition to whatever pops out of the egg. Or if you Sacrificial Summoner the egg, you either summon another 3/3 or a 3/4, which is actually not terrible tempo. But you also have the opportunity to high roll with stuff like Injured Blade Master. We're also running Drekthar as just like another way to high roll / it's just a Cult Arms, and it should be pretty damn good in this deck. But yeah, excited to mess around with this and see how much potential it has. I think Grimoire of Sacrifice is a under the radar inclusion here as a way to help fight board against stuff like Pirate Warrior as well. So next up is another deck that we're trying to abuse Sacrificial Summoner in. I've kind of dubbed this mid-range Warlock, where basically it's just Cube-Lock Suns the cubes. So basically the Sacrificial Summoner here, you either use it to pop a Void Color, and you summon a Doomguard in addition to the demon that you're summoning from your hand, or when you get to discount Corridor Keepers by killing off Copa Librarians, Armor Benders, or using Defile and Dark Skies, if you use Sacrificial Summoner on the Corridor Keeper, you pull out one of these big 8-drop demons. I know that there's a Willow in there. I know it is a low roll off the Sacrificial Summoner, but Willow is just so damn good that I could not bring myself to cut it. I think you accept the fact that you are potentially going to whiff sometimes, and I think you are okay with that because when you don't whiff, the high roll is just like the absolute nuts. And so, yeah, these are my 2 Sacrificial Summoner decks. I'm excited to see just how good they actually are, specifically the Summoners themselves, because I think that's a card that just has a ton of potential. And then next up we have Cute Lock. Cute Lock, the new inclusion here is that Frostwolf Warmaster, the 4-mana 3/3 that gets cheaper the more cards that you play. When you're playing a deck full of 0 and 1 cost cards, this has the potential to be very cheap, very quick. I am messing around with cutting the Boneweb Eggs, just because the whole idea behind the Boneweb Eggs was just like a secondary target for the Expired Merchant. I think hitting Frostwolf Warmasters are okay. And I also just couldn't really bring myself to cut stuff like Wicked Shipments because they synergize really, really nicely with the Warmaster and the Ritual of Dooms and all the buffs. This is a deck that I'm going to come back to. Maybe the Warmasters over the eggs was not the right cut. Maybe we need to keep the eggs and cut something else. This deck will be refined and it will be up in the Discord soon. I promise you that. And then I had to give you guys like one meme deck. I had to try it. So basically, I saw Grave Defiler, and I needed to try a way to abuse this because it's a really powerful effect, right? It's a 1-mana 2/1 copy of Fel spell. So my Fel spell of choice is Nether Breath. Basically, all this is just more damage with the Malagos. And so basically here, we're running a crap ton of removal, and we're running a crap ton of draw, including Dreadlich Tamsin. And so basically, all we're hoping to do here, cycle through our deck, discount the Malagoses and the Nether Breaths with the Ruined Mithril Rod, copy those discounted Nether Breaths, and then use that as a replacement for Soulfire in this deck, so that you don't ever have to take the risk of discarding your other Soulfire. But yeah, this is a deck that I do not think is going to be good, but it's going to be really fun if you can pull it off, and so I'm excited to try to. Alright, and then our last deck of the video here, Warrior got some weird cards that I was not sure what to do with them, but I had to try a To The Front deck. So the To The Front deck that I decided to try to build around was an ETC combo. So the idea behind this deck is you play ETC, you make a bunch of copies with that Bloodsworn Mercenary, and then you use that Broomstick and you charge into your opponent's board and you deal a bunch of damage. We're using the draw engine of Ankar, that super powerful draw engine, in addition with Risky Skippers, and we're actually using Anchorman's Crash and that Sourfang kind of draw engine, using that To The Front for a potentially like turn 7 combo, if everything goes perfectly well in Dreamland, but probably more consistently like on turn 8, turn 9. But yeah, I'm not sure what to do with To The Front. This was like the first thing that came to my mind. It was the easiest to build because it's a deck that I've played before. But yeah, I'm sure that there's a way that we can break To The Front. I'm just not sure completely what the best way to do it is right now. But if you guys have ideas, let me know down in the comments below. And it's something that it's a card that I'm definitely going to be messing around with a ton as the expansion moves forward. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up. I appreciate you guys sticking all the way to the end. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy all of these theory-crafted decks. I'm going to be playing a ton of these throughout the first week. Let me know what decks you guys are excited to try. If you guys have improvements already or ideas for any of my theory crafts. Again, I am one person that I have built these decks in the span of like 3 days. So let me know down if I missed any obvious synergies or combos or decks that you think that I need to be building or playing when the expansion drops. And just a reminder that I'll be streaming all of these live over on Twitch, twitch.tv/KitMeow, posting my edited and refined list over in my Discord. You can find the link to that down in the description. And of course, posting the highlights of all of the decks that I play over here on YouTube. So make sure you guys drop a subscription so that you guys know when those videos go live. That all being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys enjoy the brand new expansion, Alterac Valley, and I will see you guys next time. Later.